Welcome back to part two of our delicious conversation with Dr. Bruno Cignacco. He is an Italian Argentinian scholar, consultant based in London. He works with major organizations to unpack the transformational power of compassionate business practices amidst a landscape of all kinds of things that are changing. And, in part one of the show, we talked about why compassion is so important, particularly in these times where it seems like it's lacking in so many ways. It seems like maybe the pendulum has swung to a place where we're not supposed to be truly compassionate in business, and it's easy to sort of throw that out. And I think if we do, we're throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's a dangerous thing to do. And in part one, we talked about the benefits of it, what happens inside of your workforce, what happens with the stakeholders in your business when you apply the aspects, the different components, the principles of being compassionate in business. In part two here, I want to talk about this idea of compassionate business, because we talked about one of the major changes is that of political. As we record this, the tariffs have just taken place from Donald Trump's government. That has impacted the global markets. But there's another major factor impacting global markets that is doubly so, and that is AI. Artificial intelligence. As we move towards artificial intelligence, it's very easy for businesses to say, well, I don't need to be compassionate. I don't need to be empathetic. I'm not dealing with so many people anymore. I've just replaced 5 employees with some kind of AI or some different modalities of AI. Talk to us, Bruno, about the impact of AI. Before we go into the details of it, what do you see as the major impact businesses are seeing with it on their culture?
Some businesses are catching up with this new trend, these new technological breakthroughs, and I feel that this is a very important tool. But this tool should be used alongside other tools. It's not the only tool to be used, and many people believe that it's a tool that will save them all, and it's not up to now, as far as I know. I haven't seen a company that only relies on artificial intelligence. So there should be a combination of human resources, the traditional human resources, and the use of technology, working in partnership. In many cases, these human resources need to be retrained. They need to, for example, attend courses to know how to, for example, develop the prompts to be used in artificial intelligence, or how to use artificial intelligence to develop better design for their products, or better, for example, script for the advertising campaigns. But employees in this stage of AI should work in partnership with AI. It's not that they're replacing. Many employees are fearful, and I'm continually in contact with employees, are fearful that they will be displaced. But this happened with any other technology. We saw this in the past, for example, with computers, that many people will say that computer will, for example, phase out many people in the workplace. And on the contrary, there was now what we call digital illiteracy. People that do not know how to use a computer are considered illiterate. Why? Because it's a very basic skill. The same will apply with artificial intelligence, in my view. I'm not a fortune teller, but I feel that this is the same will apply with artificial intelligence. People will integrate, yes.
I think you're right that it's the next evolution of business. Of course, just what the printing press was, and as you said, the computer age. These things change business. They don't necessarily wipe out humanity. But at the same time, it is a reality that many jobs will be replaced by AI. And it's really interesting because maybe you're old enough. I certainly remember when people were saying, get out of the trades and learn these new skills and get literate with computers and things. And now the first jobs that are going away are these white collar jobs, not the blue collar jobs. The blue collar jobs are actually better than they ever were. So in this context, how does a company apply compassion to the person who is now feeling threatened that their job will go away? I think their job will change. I don't know if it'll go away. How would you say to a leader who's listening to us, your employees are coming to you and they're fearful, there's all kinds of economic changes, and on top of that, there's the AI change. How do you deal with that directly?
Very interesting question. Well, first off, there should be direct communication between the management and employees. In a way, the employees are less fearful of this new threat. Why? Because in practice, the way to approach this in a compassionate way will be understanding employees' fear, but also providing them with resources. For example, training. For example, online seminars. For example, workshops, where employee can understand this new technology. In many cases, it's out of ignorance because they don't know what this is about in detail. They don't know how to use. So making them aware that might not be a threat for them, but they might need to know very well the details to integrate to their jobs. And their job position might change. So there will be some what we call job crafting, meaning they have to redesign some of the positions to insert this new technology and make them suitable for this position. And employees also, this will be a very important change for many companies. When employees face significant change, like the change created by AI, this means that employees are more prone to feel fearful. They feel fearful because of uncertainty. They don't know how to act. They don't know how this will be affected. They don't know what the potential losses are. So in practice, direct, transparent communication, providing employee with as much detail and providing with training. In some cases, training could be 1 month training or a few weeks training so that the employees can integrate this technology. And in some cases, some position will be completely phased out. The company's compassion will look for other position for this employee to fill. For example, interaction with customer. As far as I know, there are bots, but the interaction with customer, many companies that are still using employee, they use sales team, they use customer service team. So this means looking for other positions, but also allowing companies that are compassionate tend to bring about what I call job rotation, allowing this employee to have a much more holistic view of the company, not only their department. This means if they're working in the finance department, they should know more about the administrative department or the marketing department. So this means that the employee will feel much more capable and competent.
Do you know of a way that technology can actually enhance compassion, certainly compassionate business practice, rather than diminishing it?
Yes, but technology in broader terms could be, for example, including emails or social media or blogs. Yes, technology always enhances compassion. For example, there are some health centers here in the UK that provide patients with reports about their health condition online. And if the patient has any doubts about, supposing that they have a very important health condition, this patient can contact a chat with a practitioner so that they can have clarification without getting an appointment. So in this case, you have technology that simplify the interaction between the patient and the doctor so that they can help them feel much more at ease, less uncertain. Technology always is a tool, and the tool can be used for positive purposes or negative purposes. The same applies to AI. AI can be used, for example, to enhance customer service, providing with information through bots. You have customer service connection with a person in the customer service department, but then this can be supported by AI, providing additional information that is generated in a tailor-made way for this customer. So they complement each other. I think that it's not exclusive, technology or people. It should be an integration.
So really that's about lowering that anxiety level, using the technology to lower the anxiety level, which is, of course, part of the compassionate equation. So from your point of view, I know that you part-time are an academic as well as a professional consultant. How do you see the role of higher education evolving in promoting the principles of compassionate business among new leaders?
Very good. I see that this is a very promising topic, a very promising thing. Why? Because I see, for example, courses, modules such as marketing and ethics. I'm teaching marketing and ethics, or we see some module like corporate social responsibility, where you have inserted in those modules the concept of compassion, the concept of sustainability, the concept of social value, not only value from the economic perspective, but from the social, from the environmental perspective. And we see that the new generations, millennials and others, are more open to these ideas as compared with our generation that we were a bit close-minded, I feel. And they're open because they know that this is the only world that they have, and they are more prone to support this world, but also they're trying to avoid all this type of unnecessary conflict, like a war conflict and so on. They have a much more future-oriented view. And I feel my students are more open to these ideas, and most of them would like to work for a company that is not only a focus on the economic aspect, but they also bring about positive impact to the world from the social perspective and from the environmental perspective.
The students you're working with, can I ask you, what is the age bracket they're in?
You have different institutions here in London. You have some institutions that have much more what we call young students will have 18 to 24. But then you have some institutions that I used to work in the past that have what we call adults that left the career and then they wanted to come back and study a degree, for example. Why? Because they feel that there's something that is bringing about fulfillment in their life. So they have children, they have a family, they have a career, and they want to bring back and get. I feel that this is very good. In both cases, because employees are introduced to these modules that they feel that they are suitable for their view of business and their future career, they are open-minded, and especially with modules that have example of companies that are doing good. I teach in different modules, but I'm teaching international marketing, marketing and ethics. But they observe, especially with marketing and ethics, as compared with international marketing, that employees are much more passionate. This fashion company is not testing products on animals. They can develop high-quality product without testing product on animal, and also they're not polluting the environment. And this can be done. They are very curious. Compassion is about awareness. If you are not aware, you cannot bring about a compassionate attitude. Why people are not compassionate at work? Because they are continually busy. They are continually with tight deadlines. But when you bring about awareness, you are more prone to understand that everything makes sense. When you make good things for others, you add value to others. This is a cycle of reciprocity. You are more prone to receive support from them.
Do you notice any difference between those two groups, like the 18 to 24 versus the adults who are coming back in? Do you notice any different in the way that they approach not only business and learning, but in their approach to how they see the room for compassion in business?
Well, the old adults, I will call elderly adults. So these students do as a matter of fulfillment. In many cases, they already have a small business and they want to enhance their business models. They want to bring about more customers. They want to perfect their marketing techniques and so on. Instead, the young students are much more curious because obviously they're adolescents. They are obviously more prone to explore in depth. And I feel that they're much more open-minded. New generation, I feel that most of the new generation are much more open-minded and they're very curious. They don't take things for granted, and also they ask more questions. What I observed, they ask more questions. Why they have a positive impact on the environment will bring about profit? What is the connection between positive impact on the environment? They don't take things for granted, and they're obviously very challenging with the question. In some cases, older generations have been much more probably accepting of the reality, accepting of the facts, accepting of the world news. I feel that the new generation have more hope. What is good for us because we'll bring about this will be the one that will be in charge and will probably bring about a better world than our generation.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I agree with you. I do some volunteer work with younger generations, and I find that they are certainly more curious, they're more questioning. But I also remember that when I was that age, many of the people I was surrounded by were also like that. My caution to leaders is often is don't sour that in them. It's important not to sour that in them because many people who are 50 plus now have lost all of that curiosity and just go, oh, well, this is just the way it is. And every generation that comes up has that hunger, that curiosity, that wanting it to be better. Let's remember, hippies are in their late 70s. And so it's very important for us to nurture that in the young people, to nurture that curiosity and to nurture that willingness to want to make the world better. And it's really interesting that the hippies are now the people who wanted to save the planet and love was the answer, have in many cases become the leaders of industry who have done a lot of the damage. It's a really interesting thing to look at the evolution of a generation. As we look at the evolution of a generation, where do we lose that connection to the planet, to each other, to the caring? And I think that we lose it in this bombardment of this is just the way it is, as opposed to what if it doesn't have to be this way?
I agree completely. I read a quote the other day. Assumptions are the termites of the mind. We are full of assumptions. Things cannot be changed. There is a world crisis now. Nothing can be done. So instead, if you look into new generation, I'm sure that you will find new ideas. You say, okay, in every crisis there is an opportunity. They have a much broader view of the world, and they have a much more sustainable view of the world. They don't think about only short-termism, but they think about the long term. Okay, how can we contribute not only for the next year or the following year, but for the next decade? And this is very important because this brings about a lot of hope for me. And our generation, I don't say that it was faulty, but probably we got a bit tired with all this bombardment of news and negative events, and also a bit resigned and a bit apathetic because we grew older. But in practice, I hope that all of us could bring about this curiosity, because curiosity is the beginning of creativity. All creative people start with a curious idea. Scientists, artists, and if you are not curious, you shut down the door to creativity. This is very important. And creativity is not only for artists, can be applied to business, design of product, design of business model, design of a workplace, and so on. So I feel a bit sad when we see that our generation got a bit tired of all these events and the impact of such amount of negative news, and believing this news, and being brainwashed by media and so on. And in practice, I see that the new generation are more discerning. There are negative news, but there are also positive news. There are negative events, but also there is some hope, because there are companies that are doing well and they are contributing to the world. There is some pollution, but there is also renewable energy. So they have a much broader view, a much more holistic view. And I feel that we lost this view probably with the aging process and with a lot of news and assumptions that were ingrained in our minds.
I think that's absolutely true. And at the same time, I'm also very aware that the new generation lives in a 24-hour newsfeed world that we didn't. I didn't grow up with that. In England, there was news at 10, there was news at 6, and that was it. And now it's 24-hour news cycles where everything that can grab a headline is put in front of you. And I think the good thing about that is that, as you said, a lot of the younger people have become more discerning and have said, I don't want that shit. But there is another group who have gotten swallowed up in it. And my concern is for them. And I think that in many ways, it is our responsibility, as in our generation, to say, you know what? We need to take responsibility for our part in this. And let's shut down all this negativity, at least balance it. I don't want to close anybody's voice off, but at least let's balance it with saying, what's good in the world? What is really great in how people are coming together? So, for instance, we've got retaliatory tariffs happening with the United States. Is that a good thing? Well, I think that not being stomped on is a very good thing. I think standing up for your country and believing in your country is a good thing. But I'm also seeing collaborations. So like Canada, we're saying, well, you want to impose on us with tariffs, we'll do the same with you. But we're going to start a new relationship with Europe. We're going to start a better relationship with other countries, whether it's Vietnam or whoever it is. And that willingness, as you said earlier, Bruno, we forget that at our core, we are all connected. At our core, we can take care of ourselves, but that doesn't mean that we can't take care of others, that we can be part of a community where we give love and caring and compassion and empathy, not just because we are getting it, but because we want to be the generators of it, rather than waiting to sit back and say, well, if they're good to us, we'll be good to them. No, how about we lead the way? We'll be good to you, and then we'll see if you're good to us, but we'll be good to you anyway, because we believe that that's the way to go. And I think that that's what compassionate leadership is, more than compassionate business. I think compassionate business is very important, but it starts with compassionate leadership. And as you said in part one, compassionate leadership means I must lead from a place of compassion with everybody in my life, no matter whether that's the janitor or my CFO. We've got to find a way to come together, and that is a unification and a collaboration that is compounded in a reciprocal way that goes out and goes, well, he was good to me. I can be good to someone else. I give $1, someone else gives $1, someone else gives $1, and all that is a ripple effect. I think that's vitally important for us in how we look at leadership and business.
Very important point. You cannot save by yourself. You can save when you belong to a network of relationship where you support each other. So this is very important because people believe in the myth of self-sufficiency, self-reliant. And this is an interconnected world and will be even more interconnected. You cannot do everything on your own. You always rely on others. Wouldn't it be nice to develop a strong relationship with the one that you rely on and they rely on you? So this is common sense, but many people get a bit egotistical and self-centered and they forget that they are relying continually on others to buy things, to get some services and for work. So we're continually relying on others, and in some cases we forget the importance of nurturing this relationship with others, because when you support them, they are more prone to support you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that compassion is a vitally important element of humanity, that we've got to remember that that's part of our humanity, particularly under threat.
I agree. What happened in the world in many countries, what I observed that what happened is the opposite. Polarization, discrimination, division between groups, in groups, out groups. And what happened? They forget the commonality of all of us. We are all human beings. We have fears. We have positive experiences in the past, negative experiences. We have hopes, aspirations. We have dreams. We have our family. We have health issues. And wouldn't it be nice to connect through these commonalities instead of focusing continually on the differences of political views, political, or for example, racial aspect or religious aspect? I remember the famous singer Sting said, "We share the same biology, regardless of ideology." We share the same biology. And this means that we forget that we have a very important commonality that can help us build a strong relationship with others. According to psychology, when you focus on commonality, you are more prone to build robust bond with others. Call it employees, call it customer, call it friends, call it family. Instead, when you focus on differences, oh, you are this way, I am this way, or I am the manager, you are the subordinate, well, this will bring about potential conflict, potential division, and so on.
This is at the root of what it takes for me. It's why I believe, like my religion, I say, is curiosity. If I'm curious about you, even though you wear a different color hat than I do, or you have a different ideology than I do, what if I got curious about what we have in common rather than being curious about imposing my beliefs or curious about how we're different? Let's find out how we're the same. Oh, you have a family? I have a family. Do you love your son? Yes. Do you love your daughter? Yes. Do you love your grandchildren? Yes. Oh, well, we have that in common, right? You want the world to be better for them, correct? Yes. And you think it's through this? Yes. Tell me why that is. What is it about that? What is it that appeals to you? Let me find the humanity in you, especially in the face of where my own ego wants to make you wrong. What if you're right? What am I not seeing? And I've spoken for years about the importance of breaching our own biases. Help yourself breach your own biases. Sit down with somebody you know you're going to disagree with and find out what you have in common. Have compassion for why they hold that position, because they hold that position for their own good reason. And if you can have compassion for that, you can have a greater understanding for that. And you can't get to those places without being curious and pushing yourself, being willing to be curious in spite of the fact that your hairs on your back are standing up and you want to get mad. Instead, go, well, wonder what we have in common here. I wonder what we have in common. And you will be fascinated, particularly if you're a leader, particularly if you're looking at somebody you think is lower down the rung than you are.
I agree. And also being focused on commonality will help you develop more rapport. The communication will be much clearer, more authentic, much deeper. Because what I see in the business environment, in the workplaces, conversation are superficial, only talking about business topic. People don't know each other on a personal level, and they have been working for decades in the same workplace. They don't know each other. This is a bit sad. Why? Because if they know each other on a personal level, will be even more productive, more cooperative, more trusting. and they only focus on the level of roles, position, functions in the workplace. And on the contrary, I see some companies that they take the chance to allow employees to meet in a personal level, for example, once a week, having a meeting, a dinner after work, where employees can let their hair down and they can connect to one another regardless of the role. The CEO can be talking to the person in the customer service office. They talk one-to-one as equals because they know that this is not about a business meeting. It's a meeting to know each other on a much more human level. This is what we need more in companies and in the workplaces.
I agree. We're getting close to the end of part 2 here. So I want to ask you more of a cultural question. You're Argentinian, Italian. Those are very sort of community and family based. And you now live in England, and you've lived there for a long time. And England has the pub culture, or had the pub culture. I was born in the UK, so I follow that. I follow what's going on in those cultures. And it's fascinating for me that the pub culture seems to be going away. A lot of pubs are closing. People are not hanging out in the pubs. And people forget that they think that the English are a bunch of heavy drinkers, but that wasn't the purpose of the pub. No more than in Italy, everybody drinks wine, or in France, everybody drinks wine. It's not about drinking booze to get pissed, to be drunk. It's about a community. It's about hanging out with your friends. So I'm really interested for you because of your cultural backgrounds and your national cultural background of where you live now, and the pub scene disappearing, and this drive towards compassion. That to me seems like it's pulling away. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's very, very challenging because what I observe that the pubs or public houses here are very popular and they are like a center for communion where people can meet one another. They can comment about their anecdote, their problem, their fear, their dates, and what happened. This is disappearing, I feel, because of the culture of internet and then social media, that people don't leave the houses. Also, what I observe here in the UK, the nightclubs are disappearing too. Nightclubs are disappearing. Yes, why? Because people don't need to go to a nightclub to meet, for example, their partner. They can go through an app, and very simple. And so this means that the advantages that were brought about by internet in some cases were counterproductive to displace it. Obviously, everyone go with their friends or their family. They're also very empty. I went recently to a cinema. So this means that all these public places, pubs, nightclubs, and cinemas are to be disappearing very slowly, dying slowly, very agonizing. Why? Because of internet made things easier. I don't have to leave home. I stay at home. I order a pizza. It's more comfortable. I don't have to get dressed. No, it's too much work. So this means that people in many cases take the path of less resistance. This means that they look for easy things at home, comfortable, cozy. They say, I have too many problems. No, it will take a lot of time. So simplifying, but what is the negative effect? The community, the communion, the pubs. I used to go to pubs when I was younger. Here I came a long time ago. And so the idea is that I felt that there was a nice atmosphere because people were respectful, very, very curious. They were listening to each other, having fun, joyful environment, also a lot of playfulness and also playful jokes. And this disappeared. You cannot get this with the internet. What you will get this? Through Facebook, through Instagram.
So we're at the end of the show here, and I want to ask you two things. One is, of course, to make sure people know how to reach you and reach out and find out more about your resources. But before we do that, I want you to give me a 10, 20, maybe 30-second answer to what is the single most important message you want to get across to people about what it is you're telling us we need to do in the world.
Well, 30-second answer will be very simple. First off, it's all about awareness. People should continually ask themselves self-reflection question. For example, how can I be more compassionate to my colleagues, friends, or other stakeholders? How can I be more generous? How can I be more grateful? And they have to remember a very important point. Everything in life and in business is about interdependence. When you support others, when you respect others, when you're generous to others, you bring about a positive cycle. And this will benefit not only them, but also in the long term or medium term, you yourself. So this means that we have to understand this principle of interdependence. This brings about more productivity, interdependence, and bring about much more cooperation, more creativity, more innovation. Instead, when you focus only on yourself, all these things disappear. Trust, cooperation, and so on.
So, Bruno, again, thank you for being with us. And please tell everybody where they can find out more about you, about your book, and all your resources.
Thank you very much. They can find me on my website. It's www.brunoscignacco.com. Or they can find me on LinkedIn too. And they can find my book, any bookshop, online or offline. The title is The Art of Compassionate Business, white cover, second edition, published by Routledge. Has more than 400 pages and have hundreds of cases on compassionate companies.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. I hope you'll stay with us to the end. I want to thank you for everything you've shared. And for you, dear listener, remember, those who control the meaning for the tribe also control the movement of that tribe. Leaders who are committed to positively shaping the political and business landscape know that they've got to tap into what drives human behavior. I am Dov Baron. I show businesses, teams, and leaders how to harness their emotional source code to move their tribe. Because unified, actualized meaning is the single monolithic difference between mediocrity and greatness for individuals and for companies. Remember, we need your help in staying relevant, so please go to whatever platform you use to tune in to us, and do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe. And of course, a big thank you to you for sharing the show with everybody you know. It makes a huge difference, and we really appreciate it. Till next time, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how you can be more compassionate and all the principles of compassion in every aspect of your life, not just in business, not just in leadership, but in your family, in every aspect of your life. And maybe that's going to take you being a little more courageous and a little more curious about stepping outside of convenience into a social environment where you have to challenge yourself to be curious and get outside of your bias. I'm Dov Baron. I'm here to assist you tapping into your deepest meaning to reach that next level of clarity, focus, purpose, and profit in your business, in your life, in your leadership impact. And I am out.